Paris, October 16, 1793. The air is cold and heavy, not from the season, but from the hatred hanging in the atmosphere. On a wooden cart, a woman stares at thousands of eyes watching her, eyes that once adored her. Now filled with rage, she is Marie Antoinette, the Queen of France. Born into luxury at Chambrun Palace, she is now just a prisoner, set to meet her end at the sharp edge of the guillotine, witnessed by the hateful cheers of her own people. The story begins not in Paris, but in Vienna, Austria. Born in 1755, Maria Antonia was the youngest daughter of the majestic Empress Maria Theresa. Her life was a fairy tale. Balls, music lessons from the young Mozart, and unimaginable luxury. But at the age of 14, that fairy tale turned into a brutal political farce. She was sent to France to marry Louis Auguste, Dauphin of France, a marriage intended to seal an alliance between two sworn enemies. Marie, a cheerful, clueless princess, arrived at Versailles, a world of deadly etiquette and court intrigue. She immediately became a target. Why? Because she was Austrian, France's sworn enemy. The public cynically nicknamed her l'Autrichienne, the Austrian woman, a word eerily similar to chien, meaning female dog. From day one, she was an outsider, a target. Initially, the marriage of Marie to Louis XVI, then king, was a personal disaster. For 7 years, their marriage was unconsumed, sparking a wave of vulgar rumors and jokes that circulated throughout France. To escape the harsh reality, Marie indulged in pleasures, lavish parties, sky-high hairstyles adorned with small boats, private opera performances, and gambling at She even built her own small village, Elie Hammer de la Reine, where she pretended to be a simple peasant, a cruel irony, since outside the palace gates, the real people were starving. The public gave her a new, far more dangerous nickname, Madame Deficit, Madame Deficit, a living symbol of court extravagance. But the climax came with the diamond necklace scandal that rocked France. An elaborate fraud involving a super expensive necklace, a naive cardinal, and a cunning con artist. Although Marie Antoinette was entirely innocent, even a victim, the hate-fueled propaganda media believed she was the mastermind behind it. Her image was completely destroyed. She is no longer just a queen. She is the perfect symbol of the greed, evil, and arrogance of the monarchy. The storm of the French Revolution finally erupted on July 14, 1789. Hungry and desperate people marched on Versailles. Marie Antoinette and Louis XVI were trapped. Thousands of angry women broke down the gates, demanding bread. They forced the royal family to move to Paris, where they became virtual prisoners in the Tuileries Palace. The monarchy collapsed, and tensions mounted. Default text in June 1791. In a desperate move, the royal family attempted to flee. Marie, who had planned much of the escape, sought refuge on the border. However, in the small town of Varennes, their cover was blown. They were arrested and returned to Paris in a humiliating parade. This attempted escape was the final proof to the people that the monarchy had never been on their side. Marie stood accused of treason, of conspiring with foreign enemies, especially Austria, the land of her birth. And the bitter truth, as the nation watched her in judgment, was that these accusations were not entirely unfounded. After the execution of her husband, Louis XVI, in the cold days of January 1793, Marie Antoinette was torn from her children and led into the depths of La Conciergerie. There, in a damp and filthy cell, she lived in near-complete isolation. Guards watched her relentlessly, day and night, as she waited helpless and alone. In October of 1793, her trial began, a proceeding that was, in truth, nothing more than a cruel farce. The charges hurled at her were beyond reason: treason, the embezzlement of state funds, and most grotesquely of all, an accusation of incest with her own son. Each claim was more outrageous than the last, revealing not justice. Amid these vile and unforgivable accusations, she stood tall. She did not plead for mercy, nor bow to the hatred around her. Instead, she defended her honor as a mother calmly, firmly, and with a dignity that surprised even her accusers. On the morning of October 16, 1793, Marie Antoinette was led to the Place de la Révolution. As she stepped onto the execution platform, her foot brushed against the executioner's. Even in that final, terrible moment, her last words were not of anger or defiance, but of courtesy. "Monsieur, je vous demande pardon, sir. I beg your pardon." The blade fell, swift and merciless, and before the roaring crowd, the head of France's last queen was lifted into the air. Default text, but here comes the greatest twist of all, the cruelest tale, sharper and deadlier than the guillotine itself. There is one sentence forever chained to her name, a line repeated through centuries as the emblem of royal arrogance. "Let them eat cake." She was said to have uttered it when told that her people were starving, that there was no bread, a sentence she never truly spoke, yet one that history chose to carve onto her legacy. However, historians have since proven that he never uttered those words. Long before he ever set foot in France, the quote had already been circulating for decades. It was nothing more than political propaganda, an ancient hoax deliberately attached to his name to stir public anger and ignite resentment. Marie Antoinette was no saint. She lived in great luxury, yet she was not the monster she was made out to be. She became a victim of brutal propaganda, used as a scapegoat by a broken system. In the end, she was killed not only by the guillotine, but by a narrative built to destroy her, proof that rumors, in the wrong hands, can be more deadly than revolution.